Well, hello. It's May 21st, 2020. Still in this, still not back to normal yet with this coronavirus mess. And yeah, the pace of this channel and the content is really slowed down considerably. Usually this time of year, things are really in peak season right now because we'd be getting ready to do the annual state convention and obviously talk about the committee reports, but that might be in jeopardy. So right now I'm just kind of looking at topics, things I can talk about, things I really want to talk about, things that are on my mind. And every now and then on this channel, I talk about a pop culture topic. I've talked about one of my favorite game shows, Double Dare. I've talked about one of my favorite TV shows. That was unfortunately only lasted 3 seasons, but called Promised Land. And now in this segment, I'm going to talk to you about a show that was on the air for 15 years. And it's a show you probably heard of called Unsolved Mysteries. Well, obviously, if you come across this video, you know that's what I'm going to talk about. But I'm not really going to discuss any cases with you, what my favorite cases are. I might do that in another video. And that'll be definitely a very complex video. I'll probably just, discuss. There were 12 or 13 seasons of this show, and for each season I like to tell you on my favorite cases. But in this video I'm going to talk to you about how I discovered the show and my watching the show, personal experiences. And then I'm going to talk to you about some of the broadcast history, the ratings, good decisions, bad decisions made by, in my opinion, by various network executives and that sort of thing too. So, my attachment with this show, when I look back on my childhood, I'll say in elementary school I had 2 favorite shows in prime time: Full House and Rescue 911. When I got to junior high, I would say my 2 favorite shows, one was Unsolved Mysteries, and the other one, I don't really know. I can't think of, maybe I just had one, but I'll tell you that the story goes in the fall of 1995. I was 9.5 years old. And up to that point, my entire childhood, the only place I could watch cable television at was my grandma's house. When I was home, and that was a lot of the time because I grew up in a very rural area on the eastern shore of Maryland. Most of the time we had 3 channels growing up. We had WBAL, which was a CBS, now an NBC affiliate. It changed right in early 95. WJZ, Channel 13, an ABC affiliate that switched to CBS in 1995. And then we had the good old Public Broadcasting Service, aka Maryland Public Television, on Channel 22. Now, some other time we get the Channel 2 out of Baltimore, and which came in okay. And then the really barely you could make it out, very snowy, we got Fox 45 out of Baltimore, and the WB, Channel UPN or Channel 54. Barely. Those 2 channels. So, fall of 1995, my dad decides to buy for himself and also for me and the entire family. Really, well, I was the only child at this point. My mom really didn't watch that much TV, but anyway, Dad decided to buy us a satellite dish. Yeah, it was DirecTV, and this thing had just been on the market for like a little over a year. Okay, it cost him. I'll never forget the price. It was $578 for this thing to buy it. You know, you think about what cable or satellite TV goes for today, it's a lot cheaper, obviously. But back then, the technology was very, very cutting edge. So, so he went to Sam's Club and drove. You know, growing in a rural area, we had to drive an hour to get to near Sam's Club. But he got it. You know, again, $578 was a Sam's Club price. What was the full retail back in '95? That would be pretty mind blowing to figure out. Anyway, we installed a satellite dish, fall of '95. I think this was on a weeknight, I believe, or something. I helped him a couple hours after school one day, and we got it up. Okay, so the very first weekend, I was home from school. And I think my dad was also home that Saturday too. Anyway, him and I were flipping through the channels, trying to figure out something we could both watch. And one of the really huge features at the time, of course, now you can find TV listings on the internet, but remember, the internet was really, really an infant in 1995. This was DirecTV, and it had an on-screen program guide. So, yeah, that's what we did. We looked at the on-screen program guide, and the channels for DirecTV still to this day, start on like channel 200. You have your pay-per-view in the hundreds, but yeah, most of your basic cable channels are 200s. Okay, channel 252 popped up, and it was Lifetime. Now, Lifetime is television for women, technically, okay? But one of the big shows that Lifetime had acquired back in 1992 for syndication, aka running reruns of the NBC show, was Unsolved Mysteries, okay? So, this was a Saturday afternoon, and Lifetime, I believe, was airing like 2 or 3 episodes, and then of course that time they also run in movies. It seemed like on the channel at the time they were either airing Unsolved Mysteries or they were airing movies most of the time. Maybe a couple other shows, but you know. So we look at this Unsolved Mysteries show, and I thought it was really cool. I think the very first case we saw a recent repeat at the time from season 7. It was the one that had Christy Krebs, who was a young lady in her early 20s who got trapped twice in Northern California in the Redwood Forest and has been missing, unfortunately, for now. That case was never solved. And the next case that we solved, I believe, was Dub Wackerhagen, who was a middle-aged man and had a 9-year-old son, and they went missing too. So that was the very first episode I ever saw, and I just remember really like, wow, this is a really good show, and I'm gonna watch this show as much as I possibly can. Okay, and that's what I did. This show, I watched as any time it was on Lifetime, I tried to watch it. It usually came on in 1995. It usually aired Monday through Friday, like at 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. Okay, I'll tell you that 7 p.m. Most of the time, 7 p.m. If my dad was home, we had one TV that was the good TV that gets satellite. The other TV could just get the broadcast stations. Okay, so if dad was home, and my dad was a firefighter for a long time, he would work. He was home 2 out of every 3 days. Okay. So if he was home and it was 7 o'clock, because he was watching the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather, because WJZ, the CBS affiliate, was one of the, at the time, was one of the very few stations in the country that aired a full hour newscast at 6 p.m. Now, believe it or not, just a couple years ago, they decided to stop the new local news at 6:30 and have CBS do their national newscast 6:30. But back in '95, it was 7 o'clock was Dan Rather, and then I don't know what my dad watched at 7:30. Might have been Inside Edition or something else. But one of the most common questions I asked him. I asked my mom what's for dinner. I asked my dad, "Hey Dad, can I watch Unsolved Mysteries tonight?" Okay, there was always one of two answers. One was I don't even know what's on, son. And the other one was, and this was especially on nights before he had to go to work, because he worked 7 a.m. one day, 7 a.m. 7 a.m. 24-hour shift. And he had to get up like 4:30 in the morning and had to commute like an hour and a half over to the Baltimore suburbs to work. But anyway, it was either, yeah, go ahead, Bobby, or I don't even know what's on, son. Let me see what's on. So, and also, Unsolved Mysteries aired during the day. I believe it varied. Sometime it was on like 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. Other times it was on more later in the day, like 1 or 2 p.m. But usually middle of the day, they at Lifetime aired a couple episodes. Of course, believe it or not, 11 a.m. when I was home from school was usually The Price is Right. But when Lifetime started airing Unsolved Mysteries at 11 a.m., guess what I was watching? Yeah, I was watching Unsolved Mysteries. So, that's how I found out about the show. And I will tell you that I never watched the show when it was on NBC. Now, why was that? Well, because the show on NBC started in 1987. It started airing when I was like not even a year old yet. And yeah, my parents were ultra conservative about, very concerned about what, very protective about what I was watching on television. I just, looking at Unsolved Mysteries now, there was just no way they were going to let me watch it in the early 90s, Middle and late 90s was fine because I was a lot older then, but definitely not when I was in preschool, that's for sure. And also, when I started watching Unsolved Mysteries in 95, the show was airing Friday nights at 8 o'clock. And usually Friday nights 8 o'clock, since I was like 5 years old, had been TGIF on ABC. It had been Family Matters, Boy Meets World. A couple years before Boy Meets World came on, it was like Dinosaurs. Yeah, that's the show, Dinosaurs, right there. Okay, so now let me get into sort of more of the broadcast history a little bit. Okay, so this show started in 1987, okay? And it was like January that year, NBC put on like, I think it was like 3 or 4 specials, okay? And the ratings were really good. And then season 1, they decided to make it a full series. And the show, its first 4 years, was a top 20 show. And even a couple years of things like top 10. But the first 4 years are really great in the ratings. Season 5, the 92-93 season, was 21st. And then in season 6, it dropped out of the top 30 and was number 36 in the ratings. Now, the reason for the ratings drop, some of it was there's always this like primetime television is always like a trendy thing. It's like, okay, once you get past like your fourth season, there seems to be this sort of what do you call it, motif that you're an old show now, you've aged or whatever. And another thing was too, if you look at the 92-93 season, that was when the Fox network had a real hit on their hands with Beverly Hills 90210. That was really starting to nitpick at Unsolved Mysteries' former dominance at that Wednesday 8 p.m. time slot. Okay, so season 6. Yeah, so now in season 6, we're not a top 30 show anymore. We're a top 50 show. Now, top 50 means you're okay. Top 30 means you're a hit. The 30 to 50 means you're okay. You're like a B minus, C plus on the grade scale as far as the ratings. Okay, but NBC is not happy with the ratings. Okay, so they moved the show to Friday nights at 8 in the fall of 1994. Okay, they put in the quote unquote Friday night death slot. Now, at this time, TGIF on ABC was really, really big in the ratings. So, I mean, they for season 7 and season 8, the ratings for Unsolved Mysteries were terrible. I mean, they were getting like 3rd or 4th in the ratings, and okay, I mean, they had gone from 36th to like 75th in season 7, and probably right around the same in season 8. So, NBC probably should have canceled the show after 8 seasons. For some reason, don't know why, but they decided to give it a season 9. Okay, and I think that's because starting like in season 8, that's when TGIF started to slip a little bit. Family Matters came on in 89. It's right around the same age as Unsolved Mysteries, and that was also an aging show for ABC. Okay, now what was bizarre here was that the ratings, I guess people were starting to get tired of Family Matters and Steve Urkel and did I do that, So they started watching Unsolved Mysteries more, and the ratings improved. It went from going 3rd or 4th in the time slot to now it was 2nd in the time slot, and then by the end of the 9th season, it was usually winning its time slot. Yeah, it was number 1 in the ratings. Okay, but the weird thing was, okay, remember, the ratings had crapped out season 8. NBC renewed the show. At the end of season 9, the show was now winning its time slot at 8 p.m. on Friday nights. But NBC said, cancel the show, okay? And it was weird because I saw this newspaper article recently, and it had the fall 1997 schedule. And NBC, and the NBC, for NBC at Friday night 8 p.m., it had Unsolved Mysteries, okay? Yeah, so this thing went out to press in May of 97 that Unsolved Mysteries was coming back. And then I think like a week later, NBC changed its mind and said, no, we're canceling it. Unsolved Mysteries. Which is very bizarre. Very, very bizarre. I mean, it's a reality show, and honestly, it was coming off its 3rd straight year on Friday nights. And NBC had a pretty good lineup on Friday nights, believe it or not. You had Unsolved Mysteries, and then you had Dateline, and then you had Homicide: Life on the Street. So you had a real contrast to what ABC was doing. For, you know, ABC was the sitcoms for the preteens, teens, kids, whatever. NBC had a great contrast of programming Friday night, during the Friday night block. Okay, but what the reason though, and I've looked at a lot of chat boards and message boards and did a lot of research for, why did NBC cancel Unsolved Mysteries in '97? Okay, well, there are two schools of thought. One is weak demo scores. In other words, not enough people in the 18 to 49 age demographic were watching Unsolved Mysteries. I think at that time, a lot of 18 to 49 year olds were either going out on Friday nights, or the ones that were watching television were watching ABC's TGIF. Now, you can have, in TV ratings, you could have a high number of total viewers and a low demo score. It's weird how that works, but it's the truth. So, like, Family Matters was declining. Okay, and then you had Boy Meets World at 8:30. That was really a hit show, and that was its fourth season at the time. So yeah, it was right at the peak. Was Boy Meets World, and that was Boy Meets World, sort of the glue that was holding Family Matters, and that whole really, well, you had Sabrina the Teenage Witch too come online, but really Sabrina and Boy Meets World were really the glue that was holding that TGIF. That's also becoming very aged, very fragile, but it was holding it together. Okay, another theory why NBC canceled Unsolved Mysteries in May of '97 was the age of the show. Unsolved Mysteries had just finished its 9th season. Most primetime shows, especially sitcoms, if you're lucky, you'll get 6 or 7 seasons. Now, there are a lot of there's some dramas that do 9 or 10. I mean, there's even some like NCIS that's been on the air for 17, 18 years, or Grey's Anatomy's been on for like 15 years, but those are the exceptions, not the rule. So what happened next was CBS picked up the show. Now, what was weird about this was CBS did not pick up the show until August of 1997. Okay. Why? Well, because, in May of '97, ABC canceled Family Matters, and they canceled Step by Step. Shows that, were... Step by Step was in its 6th season, and Family Matters going to like its 9th or 10th season, or 8th season, somewhere in there. But they both had aged, the ratings were declining. At this time, in the spring of '97, CBS was, in the early '90s, they were the number one network. In 92, 93, 94, they finished those seasons number one network. 95, they finished last. 96, and that whole 95, 96 year, they had tried to become a young person's network, and the big thing about CBS was always that older people watch CBS. So what CBS did was it took two of its hit shows at the end of 1995 in Murder, She Wrote and Rescue 911, and put them on two very um, terrible time slots, buried them. And then they canceled them at the end of the 96 season, okay? So they had bottomed out in the ratings. 96, 97, they were starting to crawl back to relevance a little bit, but they were still struggling in 97. So what they did, they didn't acquire Unsolved Mysteries yet. No, this is still May of 97. They had decided to acquire Family Matters and Step by Step from ABC. And this had cost the network like $40 million. It was very expensive. And they had two other shows. One was Mego, and the other one was Gregory Hines' show. Okay. And guess what? And they called this is a Friday night program block, and they called it the Friday Night Block Party. Okay. And don't worry, I'm getting somewhere with Unsolved Mysteries, I promise you. I just have to tell you, this is nice backstory, okay? And the Friday Night Block Party was the job of this particular block of program was to go after TGIF, to try to get something, at least, if when you're a struggling network, you can, they had something good on Sunday nights for CBS. They had Touched by an Angel was now a hit, and 60 Minutes had been a hit for 30 years. So, but they wanted something to do on Friday nights. Okay, so they acquired Friday Night Block Party, and it bombed. I mean, it did worse than even, ABC's TGIF. It's really bad. Really bad. Now remember, okay, I want to back up a little bit. So, again, August of 97, CBS acquires Unsolved Mysteries, okay? And believe it or not, the producers had, even though they had been canceled by NBC, over that 3-month period, they had still filmed like 3 episodes, and they were in the can, ready to go. Okay. So CBS, they had 3 episodes. Now, CBS could have aired them in the fall of 97, but they had already announced their schedule in May of 97 to their advertisers, so it would have been very difficult, not possible, to air Unsolved Mysteries in the fall of 97. So here's what they did. They aired the very first episode of season 10 on a Thursday night at 10 p.m. It was Thursday, November 13th, 1997. And I actually saw the episode recently. In a secret place on the net, I should tell you. And CBS started off saying, 48 Hours will not be seen tonight because we have and stay tuned for CBS special of Unsolved Mysteries hosted by Robert Stack. Okay. And what was weird about this particular airing of the show was that, it was made for NBC. It had the NBC theme song, all the graphics, everything, all the whole, how the segments always start off with, like, they'll say wanted or missing or lost loves, that sort of thing. It was still the old NBC footage or whatever. So that was kind of weird. And also, CBS they kind of buried the show. Think about it, okay? For 11 years, Unsolved Mysteries had been a 8 p.m. show. Now, all of a sudden, CBS was trying to 10 o'clock. Yeah. Well, the ratings for this airing were not good. It was third place out of 3 networks. Because Fox does not air programming at 10 o'clock. Just ABC, CBS, NBC. Okay, so now fast forward, it's April of 1998. Okay, everything about the Friday night block party had been canceled. Or no, excuse me. Wait a minute. No. Mego had been canceled. Step by Step had been canceled. Step by Step had been moved to summer burn-off episodes. The only thing surviving was that the only thing that lasted a full season in its original time slot on the Friday night was the Gregory Hines show. That was actually a pretty good show. It was probably my favorite, believe it or not. But okay, so yeah, Gregory Hines show. What else? Train of thought here. Okay, so you had that. Gosh. Okay, but what CBS had done though was they brought Unsolved Mysteries onto their weakest night of their schedule, Friday nights. And guess what? They brought the show, because the ratings were so good at 10 o'clock. No, they weren't. They said, hey, let's air the show at 9 o'clock on Friday nights. And I'm like, what? Oh, jeez. Now, I will tell you, in CBS's defense, they had they actually had a pretty good lead in on Friday nights at 8 after the whole block party thing wore off, okay? Because they had Kids Say the Darndest Things with Bill Cosby, and they had Candid Camera. So those were kind of Friday night shows, but still, think about this. Unsolved Mysteries is a legacy show that deserves the 8 o'clock time slot, in my opinion. But no, CBS said Friday nights at 9. Oh, and we're going to start airing episodes. So remember, they aired the one episode November 97, and then they said, we're going to start airing episodes in April of 98. Well, that could have been something, but they only had 6 episodes for season 10. That's it. It's crazy. Now, it would have been something if maybe, remember, summer programming really didn't start taking off till like the 2000s. The 90s were still summers. A lot of summer programming was reruns and that sort of thing. And oh yeah, Step by Step summer burn-off episodes. Family Matters was also summer burn-off episodes. And the funny thing I read about Family Matters, for a sitcom that lasted 9 or 10 seasons, CBS gave them the worst send-off you could imagine. Sorry, I'm going a little off topic here, excuse me, but yeah. What happened was they aired all their episodes, right? No. So they came in on the last day of shooting the Family Matters cast, and they started seeing that CBS was taking down sets. And I think the lead character, his name was Reginald, the big heavyset black guy, the cop from Chicago. He asked what was going on, and one of the production staff said CBS has canceled the show. And that was it. I mean, they walked in one day and they, CBS said, screw you. Instead of giving you a nice proper send-off, because this was like Family Matters, not just sitcoms, but especially for the African American community. This is one of the most successful shows ever for that particular demographic, as far as longevity and rating success. But CBS really punted them, put them, just really threw them out like garbage. Terrible. Back to Unsolved Mysteries. Okay, so the ratings for the 6th episode spring 1998 season were as you probably assumed, were bad. They were terrible. I mean, this was like, I think it was somewhere in the 80s. Yeah. Now, part of the problem was CBS, they Friday nights at 9 is a terrible time slot for anything, It's just crazy. But they were in this mindset. They were coming out of the mid-90s depression. They were like, they were just throwing spaghetti at the wall like a gorilla and seeing what stuck. Okay, but believe it or not, CBS decides to bring back Unsolved Mysteries. And you would think for the season 11 that CBS might have learned its lesson. Did they put the show on another night? Did they put the show on at its 8 o'clock time slot? No. They kept the show Friday nights at 9 o'clock. Now, you would say, but Conservative Pelican, didn't CBS maybe try to air the show in the fall when fall or winter, when people were actually at home watching TV on Friday nights and not going out? No. Nope. They aired the show once again in April and May and a little bit into June of 1999. Okay. Now, I will tell you that they did one thing that I kind of liked. A lot of the long time hardcore Unsolved Mysteries fans, I consider myself one of them, but a lot of my fellow Unsolved Mysteries fans hated this step. And it was, okay, for that season, CBS decided to add Virginia Madsen as a co-host, okay, to the show. Virginia Madsen was a very attractive lady. She, the time was in her late 30s, I believe, but yeah, she's pretty hot. Still to this day is pretty hot, I have to admit. But adding Virginia Madsen was sort of it was a Hail Mary pass for CBS. In my opinion, it was a Hail Mary pass by CBS for a network that just didn't respect the show as much as they should have. Okay. I guess CBS brought back the show in 1999 because they wanted to try Virginia Madsen. That was probably the only reason. Okay. Ratings, they might have gone from 85th to like 79th. Very just didn't really increase the ratings at all. And again, CBS really, they aired another puny 6 episodes. That was it. It's bad enough that they buried the show in April and May in warm weather months. Well, most of the country is warm weather, but and they put it at 9 o'clock on Friday nights, but it just it's 6 episodes really. I mean, maybe the show, okay, if CBS wants to just air Unsolved Mysteries in the spring, maybe you air a Friday night, maybe you air 2 episodes a week and do 12 or 18 episodes and air one like Tuesday night or something, and then a Friday episode, or just something so people, especially long-time fans of the show, know it's on. Okay. And I should tell you that I never watched Unsolved Mysteries on NBC, but I did watch it on CBS. I did not catch the first episode in November 97. I think I didn't even catch the show until like the 3rd or 4th episode of 1998. I think I was home from school on spring break. I was watching The Price is Right on CBS, and there was a promo. It was probably a Friday. Yeah, Friday in April sometime. And I just happened to catch a preview that, hey, Unsolved Mysteries is now on CBS. I was like, okay, woo, let's watch it. And that's how I think, CBS really did such a poor job with Unsolved Mysteries. Just piss poor. They didn't market or promote the show right, and they didn't schedule the show right. Didn't give it enough episodes. I do like the Virginia Madsen thing, okay, but a lot of people hated it. And I did actually like the theme music that CBS used, but a lot of people hated that too. It's weird. But the Virginia Madsen experiment was considered to be a failure by CBS, and what happened was those episodes were later re-narrated with Robert Stack's voice. Okay. And the thing about the show in 98, 99 is you start, not so much 98, because a lot of the episodes filmed for the 98 season were actually on 97. Okay. But in 99, you start noticing a little bit that Stack's voice is getting a little bit, like I guess it's like higher pitch or something. He almost maybe sounds like a teenage girl who's seeing a Taylor Swift concert or something. I don't know, but now, despite crapping out on CBS, Unsolved Mysteries still had some life. Yeah, it did. It had now been airing in reruns on Lifetime at least once or twice a day for 8 years. Since 92 is now like the year 99 or 2000. Lifetime decides we're going to start airing brand new episodes of Unsolved Mysteries. And I remember seeing the promo for this like the spring of 2001. I was like, oh my gosh, this could be the greatest thing ever, right? So they changed the theme music once again. I mean, it went from NBC, the flute on NBC. Okay, well, let me talk about the theme a little bit of Unsolved Mysteries. It went from the most famous theme was, they had that for first 4 seasons, and then they added a few designs and colors to season 5. Season 6 and 7, I'll call those the pink bar seasons, because there was a lot of pink in the opening theme, and even the graphics that you see when you come back from commercial, they'll have like legends, and they'll have like diagonal pink bars or something. One thing that I noticed from a big difference from the Lifetime episodes to the NBC episodes were the theme song was cut short on Lifetime, because a lot of the episodes on NBC were about 48 minutes, especially towards the early years. I think it got down to about 46 minutes in the the later years, like 95, 96. But yeah, the episodes aired on Lifetime were about 44, 45 minutes, so they had to cut about 3 to 4 minutes of time from the show. I didn't really notice the cuts, to tell you the truth, because I'd never seen the show on NBC. But years later, it's there's a whole message board about cuts that Lifetime made. It's pretty interesting stuff. But one thing that you'll notice from the streaming version nowadays versus the show when it aired on Lifetime was the when the show came back from commercial break. Okay, on NBC, the logo came like right at you and it sort of popped up like a toast, like a Pop Tart at the end. When the show was on Lifetime, this was for the first 5 seasons of the show. Okay, first 5 seasons, first 7 seasons, excuse me. They had, okay, so, sorry, okay. NBC, the first 5 seasons were the logo coming right at you and then the toaster pops, okay. Season 6 and 7 on NBC are more so the pink bars going across diagonal on the screen, and then the topic of the segment, fraud, legends, whatever, was on there. Okay. On Lifetime, the first 5 seasons, you had a white screen that transitioned to black, and then you had the Unsolved Mysteries logo. Okay. But for season 8 and 9, the case introductions were exactly the same on Lifetime and NBC. Okay. My favorite thing about the Lifetime reruns was this. When they had updated a case, okay, and the update had occurred after the show went off the air on NBC. So this was from 97 until, I believe, 2006 was the end of the Lifetime run. Okay. So for those 9 years, when they had an update that had happened after the show went off the air on NBC in 97, and they had to update the case, well, what Lifetime did was one of the scariest but most fascinating moments of the show. I enjoyed it watching this moment so much. What happened was, okay, the segment abruptly cut off, and all of a sudden there was this blue screen that popped out of nowhere, okay, and then in the corner they had update, and then the text started, it was like somebody was typing text on the screen, and in the background they had the most eerie music that I've ever, eerie yet fascinating music in the whole show. So the Lifetime blue screen reruns are like my favorite part of the whole show. And I wish they would have kept that element for the streaming episodes on Amazon, YouTube, but they didn't. Now, if you watch the streaming version, you just get a text update and you get the original update version. The blue screen of Lifetime was like the update music that they used, I believe starting in 94, 94, 95, somewhere around there. Okay. Oh yeah, okay, so we have the original graphic seasons, 87 to 93. 93 to 95 are the pink bar seasons. 95 till 97 was actually into the CBS years. 98, the first part of 98, was the blue screen flute seasons, where you had a lot of blue in the background and the flute was playing this track. The flute was used heavily in the theme music. And then I think after the second or third episode of 98, you had the CBS theme, and the CBS theme, I think, was, a lot of people hate it. I really like it. It's like boom, 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 and there's like you hear like a train or something, and then towards the end it's like boom, 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 boom. It's very weird, very creepy, but the Lifetime years. Okay, the Lifetime seasons. Okay, I believe the first episode first new episode for Lifetime aired in like the first week of July of 2001. Okay, and it was the first. I even remember the very first new episode in Lifetime was the case of the Laura Bible Ashley Freeman, who were living in Oklahoma, and they had disappeared after doing a sleepover, and I think that case is still unresolved to this day. But in the Lifetime seasons, you really start to see a lot lower budget than you do from NBC, CBS. Like even in the Laura Bible, Ashley Freeman, you really don't see a whole lot of like Unsolved Mysteries used to almost always film on location. And then I noticed that starting around 93, 94, there were a couple, like Gordon Collins when he was in the special education, the special ed adult who had gone missing. Well, when the story was in Michigan, you could tell so obvious that they used Southern California, because you saw the mountains in the background, the palm trees, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then there's another one, I think it's Randall Utterback. He was the guy who stalked a college age girl. Utterback was in his like 10 years older. And this apparently happened in Missouri. But again, you can tell Southern California because Missouri doesn't have, it's a pretty flat state. It doesn't have, I mean, there's like Ozark Mountains, but still, these were definitely California mountains. And you could tell that there were palm trees in the distance, and it was just crazy. But especially the Lifetime years were the worst for on-location shoots. You had one that was supposed to be in Oregon. They had a palm tree right. The producers didn't even try to hide it. It was like right smack dab in the middle of the screen. And even the Laura Bible Ashley Freeman case, you could tell it was filmed in Southern California because Oklahoma just doesn't have mountains like Southern California does, right? Okay, so another thing about these Lifetime, and by the way, thank you if you actually stayed with me this whole time. How long is this? Wow, almost an hour. Crazy. Okay, so the Lifetime first run episodes were the thing I really didn't like about it was they aired like one new case an episode, and the rest of the hour was like recycled cases. It's crazy. But I guess they did that to like preserve segments, instead of like doing they probably did the equivalent of about 15 to 20 episodes new fully. They spreaded these segments. Instead of doing 13 episodes of all new segments, they did like 50 to 60 episodes of one new segment per each hour show. It was weird. But the thing about this was you never really knew when the season was over, because Lifetime constantly, like, you had new segments airing for like 4 weeks straight, and then you had like a month or two off, and then another. They really, try to get a lot of mileage out of these segments. And then the show came back in 2002. I believe it was in June this time of 2002. And then they did, the same thing. One new segment for each show, and they dragged the show out for like, close to a year. But the neat thing about this was Robert Stack passed away in May of 2003. So he did the Unsolved Mysteries show pretty much right up until he died. because the last episode of the last segment of the Robert Stack edition of Unsolved Mysteries aired in like the fall of 2002. It's crazy. Okay. So that's the Robert Stack edition. Now, there's another part of the show, and it's the Dennis Farina version. Now, in 2008, it was like spring of 2008, what happened was Lifetime, they had a 15-year contract with Buena Vista Entertainment, aka Disney. Disney Entertainment had aired the rights for Unsolved Mysteries, and Lifetime acquired them, and they had a 15-year contract. The 15-year contract stopped at the end of 2006. After that, the show Unsolved Mysteries stopped airing on Lifetime and didn't air anywhere else. And to be honest with you, it was right around 2004, 2005 when I started to notice that Lifetime used to air like all the reruns and all the episodes from NBC. And, you know, they did a pretty good job of shuffling them. But I will tell you that they did tend to play a lot, especially starting about... Okay, so the Lifetime airs new episodes 2001, 2002. Right after about 2002, they start airing like a smaller number of episodes and repeat them. That's when I start kind of losing interest in the show, you know, a little bit for a brief period of time. And they really also like the blue screen seasons, season 8 and season 9. They replayed those a lot, and then of course they replayed their own episodes where you have the one new segment and then the 3 recycled segments. They did that a lot from like 2002 till the end of 2006, right? I stopped watching the show about 2004, 2005. Had a lot of stuff going on then. You know, just graduated from high school, was going to college, but also the show just got very, very repetitive with the segments. You know, this was a show that produced over like 300 episodes, right? But I felt like Lifetime was only airing like 100, you know, some third of that. Okay, fast forward now to spring of 1998. Okay, and I read on a TV news blog that Unsolved Mysteries was coming back. Yeah, so exciting. I think it was HBO, Enterprises, and Spike TV had teamed up to air new episodes of Unsolved Mysteries. And it was supposed to be hosted by Dennis Farina, who's a pretty good actor and actually did a okay job as host, okay? But, and the weird thing about it was Unsolved Mysteries had aired for 15 years on Lifetime, which is a women's network, and now the same show is going to air on Spike TV, which is the network for men, right? Crazy, right? Yeah. Okay, so I watched the very first, I think they started airing new episodes in September or October of 2008, and they were on like 4 or 5, I think they were like, yeah, sometime between 4 and 7 in the afternoon there. They usually air 2 episodes back to back, okay, and but reading the article on what the new Unsolved Mysteries is going to be was they took they're going to take the old segments of the show and mix them with the new segments, kind of like what Lifetime did in the 2001-2002 run of the show. But the different thing was that Lifetime had aired, the segments as they originally aired, except for a couple cuts here and there for time. But Spike TV had decided that they were going to totally, like, take the segment and everything and put, like, put some special effects and, different music and, just kind of put lipstick on a pig or something, but it's still a pig, right? And what I read was that they took a lot of the average segment on Unsolved Mysteries, like 12 to 15 minutes, and Spike TV edited them down. Instead of getting 4 segments an hour, you now got like 5 or 6, and they're like 7 or 8 minutes long, kind of thing. Okay, now, to me, that would have been okay if Spike TV had aired some new cases. Guess what? They never did. I mean, the show was on the air for like 2 years, okay? 2008, 2010. They were like 300 episodes. They edited them down to 175 episodes, and that. They never showed a single new case. It's crazy, right? And then, believe it or not, Lifetime in 2010, 2011 had picked up the Dennis Farina version of Unsolved Mysteries, and they aired the show for like 8 years. So it just went off Lifetime, I think, like last year or something. It's crazy. But to me and the 99% of Unsolved Mysteries fans, this whole stunt that Spike TV did was a huge slap in the face. They took a show with a wonderful host, and it had wonderful, music, background music, special effects, and they totally, like, what's the word I'm looking for? They totally babyfied or something. They totally I'm not going to use the F word, but efferized the show or something. Dumbed it down. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah. They thought they could appeal to a new audience and want to be younger, and the theme music was like a rock song instead of the usual, flute or eerie music. It's just terrible. Please don't watch the Dennis Farina version. It's terrible. Okay. Only stick to the Robert Stack version. And now, okay, so what happened now, right around 2011, like, I start missing watching Unsolved Mysteries, the old Robert Stack version. And in 2011, I hadn't seen the show in like 7 years. And believe it or not, there's a lot of segments on YouTube at the time of Robert Stack's Unsolved Mysteries. It was great watching it. There'd be days, especially my days off from work at the time, I would just, watched for hours and hours. It was great. Okay. But then 2 years later, in 2013, all the segments were removed from YouTube because of this Writers Guild Act or something. Apparently there was some conflict with the actors from Unsolved Mysteries, and the recreations were not getting paid, and whatever. It was crazy. Absolutely crazy. Okay. So then we go about 3.5 years of basically Charlie Brown trying to kick the football and Lucy always taken away. What happened now is somebody would post all the Unsolved Mysteries segments to YouTube, and then, like, within a couple weeks they had been taken down. I think the longest time they had been on the website from 2013 until 2017 would be like a month or two at the most. Okay. But what happened now was I got bootleg DVDs. Yes, I went to the extreme end of the earth to get Robert Stack Unsolved Mysteries. Crazy. I went to this website that has now been shut down called iauthor.com, and I had like 10 disc, like 60 hours worth of this, I think, something like that. But it was a pretty good sample of the cases that air on the Robert Stack version of Unsolved Mysteries. But then finally some good news. I'll never forget the day. It was like December of 2016. There's an announcement that Unsolved Mysteries Robert Stack was coming to streaming media, right? So I read it, and then a month later, it was like Saturday, it was like the third Saturday of January, right? And find out that Amazon had released the first season of Unsolved Mysteries Robert Stack Edition. So then, at that time, I'm kind of like I barely have any cash or something, but I make a deal with my dad. I said, Dad, I'll help you go out to Lowe's and get something, if I get a gift card. He's like, okay, sure, and I get the gift card. I can pay for Amazon it was like you get a free month, and then you gotta start paying. So first season drops, and it's great. It's got the original NBC uncut, unedited episodes. Now, there were some missing segments, but, it is... Hey, at least we got the majority of the Robert Stack on streaming media now, okay? And usually about once a month in 2017, there'd be another segment released. Usually about every 3 to 4 weeks, another season would be released until we had the whole 12-season run, okay? And then in 2019, the show became free to everyone because it got released to YouTube, which is kind of ironic because several years earlier, when Robert Stack Unsolved Mysteries was on YouTube, it was quickly taken down, and now it's up there permanently. And I'm actually getting ready. I think I'm in my second run of the show now since it started streaming, and started season 5 tonight. So anyway. How long is this video? Ooh, 67 minutes. Wow. Well, that's... Hope you enjoy this video if you stuck with me this long. Thank you very much. For the Conservative Pelican, I'm Bobby Crawford. Good night. Perhaps you may be able to help solve a mystery. 800-876-5353. You need not give your name.